What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This. This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we wrap up not only the Oath of Watchers Paladin, but also just the Paladin in general, right? We are done with all of the official stuff. Eventually, of course, we may come back and revisit this depending on timing of 1D&D and all that stuff in the future. But that's not what we're thinking about right now. We are worrying about working on just 5e at the moment. And so this is the last Paladin subclass that I will be covering for a little while. So it's a little bittersweet. I love the Paladin, and I know a lot of you do too. And I also really like the Watchers Paladin. I was pleasantly surprised when I covered it on Tuesday, so of course make sure that you watch that video before you watch this one as I go through and explain how everything works. But I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's a really cool subclass. I don't think it gets nearly enough attention just because it's newer, and I think it's kind of criminal. I think it's pretty cool. So I hope you guys are excited to see my take on this subclass. If you are, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch the channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I think we can do it, but of course I need your help in order to get there. Then of course share the video with your friends and click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. I've made this reminder in the past 3 videos, but I just want to make it one more time that I may not be so active in the comments at the time of this posting. This week is my first week as a parent, and so this is pre-recorded. So I'm going to be kind of I'm going to be kind of checked out of the channel for a little while as I focus on sleeping. But I will be back very soon and back in the comments. Let me know in the comments, just kind of say congratulations or anything like that. That really helps out the algorithm, helps me out. So I just wanted to make sure you all were aware that that's where I am. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break after this video, and then we will be getting back into Ranger in a little bit once I have taken a nap, and we'll jump right back in and continue from there and work our way through everything in 5e. Of course, another great way to support the channel and support me in what I'm doing is of course going to be by joining the channel. You can click that join button down below to become a member or a snapper. I'm Dapper, so you all would be the snappers, right? And so that really helps me out a lot in making this content. And so at the very lowest tier, the bronze tier, it's only $2 a month, right? Super cheap, and it gets you access to all of my build write-ups, right? They're all in a fancy document that I've made for every single one of my builds, all of my subclass fixes, even the variety builds have them. So you have access to all of those. Of course, I am filling out my backlog right now because I started this about halfway through the series. So I've been kind of working my way back through everything and posting them as I make them. And so I'm going to be getting caught up on that a lot, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks. And so you're going to be getting even more bang for your buck nowadays. So that's really good. Of course, if you'd like to support me a little bit more at the silver level, of course, still very cheap. Not only are you going to get shout outs on all of my videos like this one, so thank you, of course, to all of my silver members, but also every video in the future is going to get to your box 24 hours early. So you get to watch everything early in front of everyone else, which is really, really cool. And then finally, of course, at the gold tier, this is kind of the pinnacle of supporting me, which again, thank you all so much for all of you who are here, is how you help me not only in getting a special part of my Discord server, but you also get access to helping me to pick and possibly even build out some of my variety builds as we go forward. Variety builds, of course, are pretty much the best performing videos on my channel, and so those are always a joy to make, and you getting input on them really helps me out, and of course helps you to be able to feel involved in something that you are really helping to support. So I hope that is really great for you all. And of course, I'm going to be adding a few more perks to that level going forward as well. So thank you all so much to all of my current members at all levels. And thank you all to you who are just watching the video. You being here is more than enough, and I really appreciate all of you. All right, back to the Paladin, the Watchers Paladin. It's cool, right? A lot of people think that it's a little too specific and that it focuses too much on certain types of creatures. And I don't know. I just don't see that. I don't think that that's the case. I think that you get a lot of different types of creatures that you're pretty decent against in certain ways, but you don't necessarily have to be fighting those to be effective. I don't know. It doesn't feel as pigeonholed to me as what a lot of people online feel. And maybe I'm missing something. I don't know, but I just don't think that it's that bad. I really don't. I think it's actually really good. So definitely worth playing. That's just my opinion. So I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. Of course, this is a little bit more support based than what we did last week with Oath of Vengeance. Oath of Vengeance was just all damage, all attacking, all combat. This is a little bit softer. And I think that that is just really what this subclass lends itself to, is being more of a supporter, being more of a helper. You're a protector, right? You're protecting your realm from outside threats. That's the whole thing, right? You're the Avengers. And so I don't know. I just don't think that this is the time for your, taking your Polar Master, your Great Weapon Master, your dip into Hexblade, your all that stuff. I just don't think that this is the case. I don't think that this is the time for that. And so that's not what we're doing. We're taking a completely different approach. And so I hope you guys are looking forward to this unique take on it. Let's go ahead and jump into that though. We start off, of course, with our race, and I wanted to go with something a little different. This actually appeared in our honorable mentions a few weeks ago. I came very close to using this, and honestly, it's become one of my new favorite races, to be honest. I think it's just really cool, and it's the new Hobgoblin. I know a lot of people don't like the theming and what they did with that, going from like military commander, like big, and like, and made it like, and maybe it's just the art. I don't know. I think the art made it look different, but to me, this is still a military commander, and I like this. I think that this is incredibly effective. We get Fey Ancestry, which I don't know why anybody would complain about getting Fey Ancestry. We get Fey Gift, which allows us to take our bonus action to take the help action and then give certain boosts on top of that help action. And to me, the help action is one of the most underutilized things by player characters. Of course, it's used all the time by owls, as you're familiar, but as player characters, I feel like it doesn't get used enough in combat. It's always, oh, that person's making an investigation check, can I help? It gets used in that way, but it's still kind of weird because a lot of times it ends up falling under like search action or just other weird stuff. I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't get used enough in combat by player characters, and this frees that up, right? So I really like that. And then Fortune from the Many is also great because that works so well with being a paladin, right? It works well when people are near you, and people are going to want to be near you because of your auras that you're going to have. So it all works together. It all works really well. I don't know. I just think Hobgoblin makes a really good paladin, and I wanted to make sure that I made a paladin with it before I was done. So here it is. For our stats, of course, we're going to be using our modified standard array for the specific numbers. If you are using a regular standard array, if you're using point buy, you're using rolled stats, whatever it is that you're using, your stats will probably look different than mine, and that is okay. And so you can, of course, adjust accordingly and just go in the same order that I do. So your best top stat is going to go in your strength, second is going to go in charisma, third into your constitution, and past that it really doesn't matter. I normally go with wisdom first, then dex, then intelligence, just because wisdom saving throws are somewhat common, and then dexterity isn't as common. They're both common, but I would rather go with wisdom over dex, mainly because I don't want to get put under some kind of nasty effect and turned against my allies. I can take some damage from a failed dex save. I don't know about, I don't want to be smiting my friends. That can get a lot dangerous. And then of course intelligence, who cares? Of course, this being from Monsters of the Multiverse, we get a +1 to 3 different stats. And so I'm going to throw that into all 3 of those odd stats. Your stats may look a little bit different, and so you may need to use the +2, +1. That may work out better for you. But whatever your system is, either one works just fine here. Then of course we'll take a look at our equipment here. Personally, I like taking a versatile weapon on this build. So anything that has a versatile property is going to be fine. That's just me. And then of course grab a shield if you want to. I like the ability to be able to switch back and forth between one-handed and two-handed, depending on how I feel the enemy's ability to hit me is. If it is especially effective, if they're hitting really hard or hitting really often, then the shield probably feels more worth than dealing a little bit of extra damage. Whereas, you know, if they're having a hard time hitting you because you have a high AC, then I would just go nuts on that two-handed weapon at that point. So it allows you to be a little bit more flexible in that way, and, you know, be able to take the risk if you feel like it's worth it, or sit back and be more defensive if you need to. So that's something that I would do personally. And then of course take the best heavy armor that you can. Probably going to be chainmail for now, and then eventually you'll want to pick up some full plate armor once you can afford it, after you go and, you know, get a ton of money from whoever. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and start taking some levels. We of course are going to start with Paladin, like we almost always do on this channel. Paladin just comes with a lot of really good stuff, and we're not taking any kind of fighter levels on this one. So if we're not taking fighter, Paladin's probably going to be our best bet, and that is what we are doing here. We of course get great proficiencies both in the weapon and the armor departments, so that feels really good. We go ahead and start our lay on hands, we start our divine sense, and that feels really good. And we're going to be a Paladin for a long time before we consider doing anything else on this build. I considered going to level 20 just Paladin. I did that recently. I'll put that up in the icon above, but I felt like that with some interesting multi-classing, we could come up with something cool, and I'm happy with how this turned out. So we are going to be multi-classing, but it's going to be a little bit later than normal on this. At level 2, we're going to be, of course, a Paladin too. We get our fighting style here, and I'm going to go with Blessed Warrior here instead of Defense. Defense makes sense, of course, if you wanted to go that way, but I would rather pick up things like Guidance and Spare the Dying. Again, we're more of a support type of character this time around, and I would like to, you know, have the effective capability to do that. And Guidance and Spare the Dying are some of the best cantrips out there when it comes to doing things like that. So that's where I'm at on it. We also, of course, get our spell casting and Divine Smite, so we can deal a bunch of damage when we want to. And then, of course, we get some spells. So we get Alarm and Detect Magic here for free. Keep in mind that Paladins do not get access to ritual casting inherently, so you will have to use spell slots in order to cast these if you want to. So just be aware of that. It is what it is. I mean, you're gonna have to use spell slots in order to make this work, and so that makes those not as worth it in my eyes, at least on a Paladin. Then we get Bless, Compelled Duel, and Shield of Faith. Those are all really good. Compelled Duel, of course, works great to make sure that your allies are staying safe. That way you can just say, you know, Earth is closed today, and you can fight them one-on-one if you need to, because they're not going to really want to attack your allies just because they're going to be rolling at disadvantage. So I think that's really, really good. Shield of Faith helps you, helps your ally, whoever you want to give this to give them basically a free shield in front of them. So that's pretty cool too. Otherwise, Bless is probably going to be your best option. Like I say almost every week, Bless is just that good. So any of those are going to be really good options for you. At Paladin 3, we get Divine Health, and of course we also get our Channel Divinity options. We're probably going to be using Watcher's Will most of the time, because this allows you to boost the saving throws of creatures around you, and that's really big, right? That's really, really helpful. That's why Bless is still my top choice, because it stacks on top of that. So definitely something that I would consider in the long run, in the grand scheme. I think that works really, really well here. Yes, you can of course use Abjure, but to me, I just don't know that it's worth it a lot of the time, because unless you're fighting just like a bunch of little guys and there's no big guy, then I might consider it. But if I'm in a boss fight, I'm using Watcher's Will. I'm boosting the saving throws, because a lot of attacks, spells, anything that's coming out of enemies that we're going to be fighting are going to force saving throws. If it's, you know, they deal an attack and it's a I don't know, a wisdom saving throw, or you take extra damage, or you make an intelligence saving throw, which is incredibly rare, but you never know, right? Charisma saving throws also kind of rare, but not as rare as intelligence. But I mean, wisdom saving throws, those happen all the time. And so that's going to come in handy quite a bit, right? It's going to help with people trying to take over, with your hold persons, with your hypnotic patterns. There's just, the list is massive. And so that's going to help out with all of that. So that really helps out. Really, really good option. Then at, of course, Paladin 4, we're going to go ahead and take an ASI and bump our charisma here. The number of creatures that we can choose in that Watcher's Will has to do with our charisma modifier. And so we want to be able to add on to that. Now, if you do have a smaller party, then maybe you're not going to worry about doing this. But the way that I see this is that you're probably going to need at least an 18 to catch your whole party. Once you get beyond that, it's kind of up in the air, but you still want a good charisma either way. And so that's why we have gone with this. Then of course at Paladin 5, we get extra attack and we get our second level spells. Extra attack, of course, is great. I'm not going to complain. It's not the main focus of what we're doing on this build, but we do get Moonbeam and See Invisibility. I still would probably stick with Bless most of the time over Moonbeam, just because it costs your action to manipulate it. It's generally not going to be worth it, at least to me. I don't know. I don't think it's worth it most of the time. But Aid, Find Steed, Lesser Restoration, and Warding Bond are all really great options here on the support side. So definitely consider taking any or all of those on any given day. Paladin 6, yeah, we're still going. Aura Protection, I can't miss out on this. It's too good for me to put off. We get, of course, bonuses to all saving throws, and this doesn't even count the advantage that we've gotten on the mental side from our Watcher's Will. So this is huge for people that are around us that are under the effects of both. That's really, really great. Definitely a huge support to the party. Then of course, Paladin 7, we get Aura of the Sentinel. This is just a flat boost to initiative for everyone who's near you. That's great, right? That's really, really good. And I don't know why people don't talk about this, why people underplay this, downplay this. I think it's quite nice. I think it's quite good. So yeah, Aura of the Sentinel, boosting initiative. It helps you out a lot since we have just a neutral dexterity. I mean, I normally don't have a very good initiative when it comes to this, so that really, really helps out. Then at Paladin 8, we get our next ASI or feat. I'm going to go with something a little different. I'm going to go with Metamagic Adept here. And my main option that I'm going to want to take here as a Metamagic option is Subtle Spell. Now, Subtle Spell, of course, takes out either the verbal or somatic components from the casting of a spell for the cost of 1 sorcery point. We, of course, get 2 sorcery points for the price of this feat, and so that's going to be perfect. Of course, if you want to take Quicken Spell, you can, but typically when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about ways to deal damage on Quicken Spell. I'm typically not thinking about ways to support my party. So I think Subtle Spell is going to be a little bit better, especially once we take our next level, Paladin 9, and we get Counterspell. This means that your counterspell cannot be counterspelled, and that's really big, especially when you have a DM that might be on a bit of a power tirade. I've seen this happen before where people will counterspell counterspells, and it can get really annoying and frustrating. This means it's not going to happen because there's nothing to see. You didn't do anything. The only thing that Counterspell has is a somatic component, and you can take that out with Subtle Spell. You basically didn't do anything. So no counterspell to your counterspell. That feels really good. You also get non-detection, and then of course Aura Vitality is a decent one as well to take here as a support spell. Okay, now that we have counterspell, we've got subtle spell, we're doing all of that. Now is when I would actually be able to consider multi-classing. And yeah, it's really late. It's level 9, right? A lot of people have already called it quits, or maybe you're just going to level 10, like maybe you're playing Curse of Strahd and you're going to level 10. But of course, there are plenty of people who are going to maybe level 13 or beyond. It's of course more and more rare as it goes up. But to me at this point, I'm thinking, how can I support my team even better, right? And I see it in another class. I see it with the Bard. I think the Bard is going to help us to shore up our ability to support our allies even more than what the Paladin was ever capable of. And that's what we're going to do with this. At Bard 1, level 10, we are going to get our spellcasting and our Bardic Inspiration at a D6. Of course, we talked about the Bard in detail up in the icon above right there. And so make sure you check that out if you have any questions or don't know what the Bard does. But of course, for cantrips, honestly, it's kind of pick your favorites. I've got most of what I want for that. Of course, Vicious Mockery is always going to be a good thing because that way you can hurt people's brains with your mama jokes. So that feels really good. I like that. That means when you call the guy Squidward, right, then he actually will take psychic damage. So that's really good. Then at first level spells, we can pick up some key things like Healing Word, Silvery Barbs, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, some really great battlefield control and support and healing spells. All of that's going to be really good. And of course, Bard is the king of helping out with that kind of thing. Next, at Bard 2, we get Jack of All Trades, Song of Rest of a D6, and Magical Inspiration as of Tasha's. Now, Jack of All Trades is really interesting because it gives you half your proficiency bonus towards checks that you do not have proficiency with. Here's the thing, initiative is an ability check that you do not have proficiency with. So not only are you boosting your own initiative from your Aura of the Sentinel, but now it's getting boosted again by Jack of All Trades. So you are a very speedy paladin, at least in terms of initiative. And so that's going to be really cool. That feels really good. So just something to keep in mind that those do stack, and that really is kind of great to be able to get yourself where you need to be as far as setting up your auras and that kind of thing. Song of Rest, of course, allows you to give a little bit of extra healing to those who heal during a short rest, and Magical Inspiration just basically just expands what Bardic Inspiration can do in order to work on healing or damage rolls. So pretty cool. Definitely a good addition. At Bard 3, we get our subclass, and I really struggled on this one. I went through, I want to say 4 of the subclasses before I finally landed on this one, because I was really trying to not go with something that's just OP for whatever reason. We still ended up on the Lore Bard. Okay, we're still here on the Lore Bard. Of course, we talked about the Lore Bard up in the icon above, and the Lore Bard is still really good. Of course, the bonus proficiencies don't really mean anything to us, but Cutting Words is great. It's basically a one-time use, better as far as number, worse as far as it's kind of like Bane, but for one creature on your reaction, and it burns a Bardic Inspiration. But it can be really key, right? Because it's a D20 roll, right? So if there's a crucial check that they're trying to make to get out of a Hypnotic Pattern, out of a banishment, out of anything like that, that's a sucker save thing, Cutting Words is great. And so I really like being able to do that. Definitely a worthy use of our reaction. Of course, because we're 3rd level, we of course now get 2nd level spells because we're a full caster now, and we're speeding up our progression of our spell slots as well. So that's going to help us in smiting as well once we get a few more levels under our belts here. Some interesting options here are Enhance Ability, Hold Person, and Silence. Silence, of course, can shut down verbal components if you can get the positioning right. It's kind of hard because then they can just kind of step out of it, but it depends. If you're smart about it, you can make a lot of good use out of that. Hold Person can, of course, set up a later crit, which is good. And Enhance Abilities, Enhance Ability. It's really nice. At Bard 4, we, of course, get another ASI or Feat. I'm just going to boost Charisma again. I don't see any reason to do anything else personally. Again, it's number of creatures. It helps us with our spell saving throw DC. Just for every reason, it's best to just keep boosting that until you hit the cap. Then at Bard 5, we get our Bardic Inspiration improved to a D8, which is really good, and Font of Inspiration, which is one of the most transformative features of the Bard kit. We now get our Bardic Inspiration back on a short rest rather than a long rest, and that is amazing. That is so fantastic. So definitely something worth going 5 levels in for. We also, again, at this level, we get things like Hypnotic Pattern, Mass Healing Word, and Slow. All really great options. You may not be able to take all of them, but definitely consider at least a couple of them if you can. And then at Bard 6, we get Counter Charm, who cares? But we get additional magical secrets here as well. And I'm just going to mention some here. I wanted to get here to give the option, but there's just so much out there. The list is so exhaustive of what you should take at level 6 of Lore Bard. I'm going to mention things like Haste, Spirit Guardians, and Spiritual Weapon. Spiritual Weapon is a little bit more selfish here, but it's not bad, right? Of course, we get Moonbeam, but Moonbeam is kind of trash because we have to use our action to do it. This is bonus action, no concentration, force damage. Like I don't know how you can contest that. It's just so good. Of course, Spirit Guardians is a nice little aura-like type of thing that can be really nasty against your opponents. And Haste is Haste, whether it's on you or on an ally. I don't see why this could ever be a bad thing. So those are my top 3. Of course, there are plenty of others that work great, but those are some of my favorites. So now that we have locked that in and you've gotten everything that your heart's desired from the Lore Bard, we go back to Paladin for the rest of the way. And so we're going to go ahead and pick up Aura of Courage here at Paladin 10. This gives us, of course, help against the Frightened condition, which is always going to be pretty nice. Frightened condition can be nasty at all levels just because of the disadvantage, because of just how it affects movement and that kind of thing. It's good. I think it's really nice. Paladin 11, we get free damage with improved Divine Smite, always going to be good. At Paladin 12, of course, if your charisma wasn't maxed out before, keep doing that. Otherwise, I'm going to go back to strength. Strength just wasn't as important to me here, and so I wanted to make sure I was maxed out on charisma first, even if I'm attacking with strength. That's just how I see it for this build. Paladin 13, we don't get any features, but we do get 4th level spells with Aura Purity and Banishment for free. The only spell that I really care about here that's an elective one is Find Greater Steed. Besides that, I can kind of take it or leave it on a lot of them, but I'm sure there are plenty that you would like as well. And then finally, level 20, we get Cleansing Touch, which allows us to end certain spells on ourselves, which can definitely be pretty huge depending on the spell. So what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this build. It's a little different, but honestly, I think it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I really like the Watchers Paladin. I think it's a ton of fun. I think it's a cool support way, while still being able to deal damage, while still being able to do all of the things that Paladins do, but it takes the support and utility portion and just dials that up a lot. And I like that. I like being able to fill that niche while still feeling like a Paladin. Now let's take a look at our honorable mentions here. For other races, the first one that comes to my mind is the Aasimar. The Aasimar is, of course, an amazing option for, of course, Healing Hands, giving you another healing option. And then you've got your 3 sub-race choices. Of course, most people are probably going to choose Fallen. It's just really good. I don't know what to tell you. It's great. Scourge is a maybe. Normally it's good on a Paladin, but I don't know that I'm feeling it on this one. But that's just personal. One race that may or may not be allowed at your table, you'll have to talk to your DM about it. This was kind of the one that I would have loved to have taken, but number 1, I just really wanted Hobgoblin. 2, this one's not going to be allowed at every table, and it's the Kalishtar. The Kalishtar is a really cool race, but it's an Eberron race ultimately, and so it is technically going to be location specific, and so your DM may or may not allow this. Make sure to ask if you're wanting to play something like that, but it works really great as a Watcher's Paladin. And the Mark of Healing Halfling, also really good, but location specific, and so make sure that you can play that if you're going to want to do something like that. Then for our feats here, I'm going to start with Warcaster. I mean, Warcaster is going to always be good on a Paladin. It allows you to, of course, cast a spell as an opportunity attack, but even more so, you have advantage on maintaining concentration. That helps when you pick up things like Bless, when you have your haste going, when you have whatever it is that you're concentrating on that needs to stay up and you don't have proficiency with Constitution saving throws. This is huge and really helps out. Fey Touched also makes a lot of sense here because you get access to Misty Step and then one other spell, as well as a bonus to one of your mental stats. So that's really good. And then Inspiring Leader for being able to buff up your party a little bit more, even on top of the aid spell, which you also get access to on this build. All of that works together to make your allies really, really beefy. Now, you want some weird options for other classes. The Berserker Barbarian was, I came so close to going with a Berserker Barbarian and going more damage heavy this week and just going off the wall with that. It was actually a Berserker Barbarian and Champion Fighter build that I was working on. But I was just like, I don't know. It just seems a little too, it just seems too damage heavy. And I've been there, I've done that. Last week was Vengeance Paladin. It's all we focused on. And so I wanted to go something different, but it's not the worst out there, I guess. So something to at least consider. And then of course the Divine Soul Sorcerer, we of course talked about that last week as well. It's just going to be really good all around for Favored by the Gods, for all of the spells that you get access to. There's just always going to be a reason to take that. So what do you think of today's build? Let me know down in the comments below. Of course, I may not be able to answer those comments super quickly, but I really appreciate all of you for being here. We're of course going to be taking a little bit of a break from the channel as I try to, take a nap maybe, and we'll see how that goes. But until I see you all next time with our SSBA battle that is going up this weekend still, and I believe I'll have one more battle next weekend as well. Those will still be happening, so there will still be some uploads on the channel. Please check those out. I put a lot of time and effort into those, and it would really mean a lot to me if you all would at least watch them and maybe leave a comment, just cool or something like that. It helps me out. So I really appreciate you all. And so until next D&D video, I will see you all at that point. Until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.